Hello everyone, this is the Gamer Outdoorsman here, and today I am back with another episode of the Hunter Talks. Today I'm with Steinper. Say hello.
Hello, everyone.
And today we're just going to be talking a little bit about the new reserve that was recently announced uh, to be uh, located in the Rocky Mountains. Um, now, first of all, we're going to just sort of talk a little bit about what we sort of the terrain types and just sort of general things about the map that we so just sort of predictions about what it might be. Um, so yeah, so it's going to be in the Rocky Mountains, which I am actually quite excited for. Out of the three options that we thought were prime prime suspects. This was probably the middle ground for me, but I think fall was it gives it a bit of a boost for me. I really like that idea of it being in the fall. This will actually be our second only fall map technically, as far as I'm aware. Um, but yeah, I know that there was a lot of rumors about it being in Africa just before they announced it, and I was really worried about that because, quite frankly, I don't think the Hunter is in a place where it's ready for Africa quite yet. I think that it needs a little bit more work before making such a big leap to a whole new continent of terrain and species. But yeah, so it's going to be Rocky Mountains, and that's all we've really gotten so far. And it's going to be in the fall. So the Rocky Mountains, I did try to ask them a little bit more about where uh, where if we could get a little bit more narrow description of what it might be like. I asked if it was going to be more of northern Rockies like Alberta, Canada, or that sort of a region, or if it was going to be more like Colorado, New Mexico, southern areas where it might be a little more arid. But I think they did respond finally, and they said that they just sort of said that it wouldn't be that reserves in the Hunter are based off of many different types of areas and not one specific place. But personally, I kind of hope that it'll be Northern Rockies, because I mean stuff like Colorado and New Mexico would be interesting too. But I think that especially in the fall setting, I think the Northern Rockies might look a little bit might be a little bit better of a setting.
Yeah, I think that too. Actually, I'm not really known in. I don't know too much about the Rocky Mountains, but as far as I know, I think, like as you say, the Colorado region and a little bit more north would be pretty cool.
Yeah. Um, I know that New Mexico and that sort of a region has also been a bit suggested, but I don't think that. Uh, I think when they're saying Rockies, they're referring to a bit more north. Um, but yeah, because
Yeah,
I know that a lot
like
of people, yeah, a lot of people tend to suggest when they try to suggest things like the more arid regions of the what is considered the Rocky Mountains. They usually just refer to it as New Mexico or that sort of a thing.
I think, yeah, I think like since they are going to add like the Rocky Mountains, there will probably be a lot of mountains, of course. With I just hope there won't be like well the boys where you have to climb and all that stuff. I just hope it's like a lot of mountains and woods and Yeah, just not too much climbing, just regular mountain gameplay.
Yeah, I kind of like the idea of how the sort of back region of Valdebas is, where it just sort of slowly climbs to a the alpine area rather than having to go and like climb those steep ledges that otherwise without the climbing gear you can't get to. Um, yeah, I wouldn't mind maybe having some regions once you get way up there, having being like exclusive to climbing gear. Like I wouldn't mind that, but I think that those areas should be a little bit smaller and not as like closed off from the rest. Because I feel like the alpine regions on Val de Bois feel very separated from the rest of the reserve,
Yeah, that's
which
what I think too. Like, there's just too much. You have to use so much climbing gear. There's first you have to climb one little hill, and then there's another one and another one before you finally get to the top.
yeah, yeah, that and it also comes to sort of a thing where kind of it has this. I hope that it doesn't have too much of the same issue. I think White Rime and Val de Bois both kind of share the same issue a little bit, where the mountains seem very like they have very just sort of walls, like especially on Val de Bois, they're quite literally walls that yeah, they're there to sort of make the reserve feel a little bit more remote, but it's just not really done in quite the right way. It's literally just sort of putting a wall there so that once you get up into that region, you feel a little bit more uh, secluded.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, they said that this reserve is going to be the biggest one yet, which uh, sort of makes me curious because if we look at the map, um, if I remember correctly, they said that White Rime was supposed to be the new biggest. So if they're not joking about this, that means that it's going to be bigger than White Rime, which is kind of scary, really, to think about. If it's going to be really that big, that
Yeah,
that
it's gonna take up like one third of the one of those islands. I think like we have two really big maps, and which is White Rime and Red Feather, but I was hoping to get a little bit smaller map this time with something like Loggers Point or here on Settler Creeks, where you just have time to do a lot of the map in one hunt. Don't get me wrong, I love exploring a lot of parts of the new reserves, like on White Rime. I haven't even got to explore the whole map because it's so big and I don't have like 5 hours a day to play on the same map, so sometimes it's good with a big map. It's fun to explore, but most of the time it's okay with a mid-sized map, in my opinion.
yeah. One thing that I think that just sort of reminded me of is kind of an issue that I've slowly started to have about the newer reserves is they well, it's a combination of things. Is well, first of all, they haven't had the newest issue I think that is probably a little bit more fixable is they haven't had hardly any roads in them. Uh, White Rime I know doesn't have any roads. Valdebois doesn't have, or Bush Rangers has no roads as well, and Valdebois only has like a few roads. I'm not Valdebois. I think it works all right. They have a good amount of trails and roads on there, but still,
Hmm.
like I would like to see more trails and roads come back on this reserve. Um, which actually brings me to some other things. Is with a lot of the newer reserves is uh, camping sites and tower stands. Um, I think that those, I know that they take a little bit more work and maybe a little bit more time, but I think that they're to be honest, I think they're worth it because the it sort of makes it a little bit more accessible, especially the camping gear, is it's already there. You don't have to set up a tent, and you know it gives more reason. Like I have hardly used any camping gear since since I got my membership. It's just been piling up because there's only one place you use them, and that's those camping places. But most of the old maps, I usually have friends or at least somebody who has like already gear set up around the map so that you don't have to use those things. So I have no real reason to use camping gear or the camping sites anymore. Um, the only reason that I could possibly think of is if a new reserve were to come out, and I would have another reason to use it at the camping sites to make it a little bit more accessible, at least right away, until I could get buy some tents and put them out in the more remote locations. And same with the pre-built tower stands. Is if you don't have to go out there and set up tree stands for like a whole day and a half just to have things out there so that you can actually hunt for maybe just half an hour at a time.
Yeah. I, if I can just say something, like they're saying that this is going to be the biggest reserve, and we already know that White Rime was a massive reserve, in my eyes at least. But just imagine if there was a possibility to have not only two but three hunting lodges, like default, like three lodges on the map. I just have been thinking about this for a long time. If there was either way, it was three of them were there all the time, and maybe you can just choose to have one of them and place them or place one of the lodges on a spot on the map where you want it, and then it has to stay there forever.
Hmm.
It's just something I've been thinking about, like why is there only two lodges on a map, and especially on a big map where yeah, like White Ram Ridge, where you have to go a very long way if you don't have tents, because there's so much area between the lodges. So yeah, that's just a thing I've been thinking about.
Yeah, and that's I think a good example of that is also even on like Val d'Avoie, which is not necessarily a gigantic map. Both of the lodges are kind of in like they're rather close to each other. There's just sort of that, and they're in very similar locations. Like one of the big things that I usually liked about the other lodges, like for example, I think the Red Feather lodges is a good example. The Trapper's Rest lodge is more down into like the swampy lowland area of the map, while the Darkwood is up in the dense or deep dark forest, pine forests up on the edge of the mountains there. And
Hmm.
I really liked how you sort of had a choice of like the type of terrain that you hunted just by choosing the different lodge. It sort of completely changed the hunting just by that. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, um, another thing that all the like lodges and like tree stands and stuff like that that come when the map is first put out, that I think helps it a lot is it sort of makes the map feel a little bit more, I guess, lived in could be described. Like one of the big things that I liked about the old reserves is yes, it felt like you were sort of alone, and this was sort of wilderness, like a pristine reserve. But it also felt like there was people have been hunting it for quite a while. There's these old stands, just sort of sitting around places. There's these trails, um,
Hmm.
and there's these places where that there's a good chance that you're going to at least see something there because somebody put that stand there because they knew it was a good spot, and it just sort of made the reserve feel a little bit more at home. Uh, yeah, it made you feel a little bit more at home in the reserve, and I really liked that aspect. And I mean, with White Rhyme and those sorts of things, I guess I could sort of see how it works, uh, or see how it wouldn't have things like that, like trails and roads and stuff like that. But I think that the I think that this map, if it's possible for that, that would I think that could work out really well, cause I kind of like how the Rockies, it's a little bit more of a destination sort of a thing. Um, that's one thing that they've been sort of swaying towards a lot. Is a lot of the new maps are very like adventurous, like going to the corners of every corner of the globe, seeking like adventure, kind of like a Cabela's game or something. Subarctic Alaska, uh, outback Australia, those sorts of things. But I think that although the Rockies is a little bit more on the adventurous side, the more uh, wild places side, I think that enough people hunt the Rockies like on a regular basis. Like I know a few people in real life who make by sort of every couple of years they make trips out to Wyoming or Colorado to hunt elk on a pretty regular basis. So it's not like it's a once in a lifetime sort of a trip experience or something like that.
Yeah, I just want to talk about that you said about the towers and stands that are default on the maps. I completely agree with you that you like when there are a lot of towers on a map, but if you think about it, we haven't had such a map in a long time. I think the last one must have been Hemmeldal or something, because uh, White Rum Ridge and Bush Rangers and Val de Bois didn't have any tree stands or towers default in the map, as far as I can remember.
hmm And I know that I forgot if they gave too much explanation to those that why they haven't been doing that. The only thing that I could really think of is like other than I don't like to call them lazy, but laziness could be a part of it. But the only thing that I could think of is like giving a little bit more you know of that sort of a control to the players. But I don't think that I think the reserves need stuff like that to sort of make it so that the players can add to it to build off of that already good reserve rather than
Hmm.
just having to start from scratch every time a reserve comes out. We should probably get started talking about the species that we might want to predict. Um,
Yep.
well, automatically, there's two species that I think can be basically guaranteed for this, and that is mule deer and Roosevelt, or elk of some kind. They might change the name just for the sake of having it a new species or something. So
Yeah.
I've heard some people say they might just do a little bit of remodeling of them, or maybe at least resizing. But really, there isn't much difference between Rocky Mountain elk and a Roosevelt elk. Um, the main differences in real life is pretty much just maybe a little bit of size and also where they live. And it's kind of like how there can be all these different types. I forgot there was like some documentary about like subspecies and stuff. Where it was talking about how there can be like a canyon somewhere down south, and on one side of the canyon there's one species of squirrel, and on the other side it's a completely different adapted species, and they're right next to each other, but they're very different. I think that's like probably the only difference between the different species of elk is like the specific places that they live.
Yeah.
But yeah, So those two, I think, can basically be guaranteed. Um, if they don't, I'll be a little bit disappointed unless they replaced it with something even better that I didn't think about. But for new species, I think I would definitely like to see some form of or well, some other species that might get in there that aren't I'm not entirely so certain on. Uh, black or brown bear could make it in. Not sure if I kind of want more bears on another reserve. I could probably live with it, but I think that a lot of the reserves, the bears have been sort of a little bit overused at this point. Um,
What you said about the mule deer and the elk, I totally agree on that because there's a very good reason for them to add mule deers again because the only map where we have mule deer is Loggers Point, and it's many years ago since we got that map. I wasn't even playing the Hunter when Loggers Point came out, and yeah, I think mule deer is definitely going to be there because of what I just said, and probably elk too because what I'm thinking about instantly when I think about the Rocky Mountains, I think about elk immediately.
yeah, and that's basically why I think it's all but guaranteed that there's gonna be elk on this elk and mule deer on this reserve. Also, I don't
Mm.
really know why else they would specifically take out mule deer and replace them with whitetails for the member open species or huntable species. Um, yeah, I had a feeling that they were planning on putting them on a new reserve, and
Yeah,
they probably wanted to make sure that the guests didn't have too much of a you know thing. They don't want it to have it so that they have too much things to do on the new reserve without buying a membership.
yeah, I know what you're thinking.
But yeah, all in all, I think that this reserve is going to be really good. I mean, they've had a full year to work on it, which I'm a little bit happy about. They, I kind of feel like with any luck, I think that this is going to be a nice quality reserve, and I prefer that than having like two reserves a year. I prefer having reserves that are actually like good and pretty well polished, and
Hmm.
like I said, have more work put into them, like stands, roads, stuff like that. Um, but yeah, uh, just a few more animals that I think could make it in. I think some form of sheep or mountain goats, kind of like the ibex on Valdeba. I think that I would really like something like that. Um,
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. But personally, I didn't like the Ibex too much, and that's a few reasons for that. And the first one is I'm a bow hunter, basically. I love hunting with bows and being silent. But with the Ibex, it was almost impossible to having bow shots on them unless you shoot over 100 meters, because they can see you very easily. So I think like ibex are cool animals. They're okay to hunt, but for me it wasn't too funny. But I hope with this new reserve that there will be some form of bighorn sheep or Dall sheep or something similar to that that is more easy to hunt with a bow. That's at least what I think.
yeah, I'm no expert on like sheep or any of that sort of hunting. I've never really like studied it at all or tried to learn how it's sort of done. I've never done it in real life, obviously, but yeah, I think that it's a cool sort of a thing. At least I don't think it should be. I heard a few people talking about how they hope they add like a few more a bit more variety, like maybe two or three different types of sheep. But I don't really, I don't think they should overrun the reserve with all these different types of sheep up there. I think
Yeah,
at least
that's true.
one could probably be good.
Yeah. Another thing that I would like to see that I've been wanting for a lot of years is either wolves or maybe lynx. I don't know if there are lynx or like bobcats, if that's what you call it in USA and America.
Yeah,
Uh, but I don't know if there are bobcats in the Rockies. There probably is, but that would be really awesome.
yeah.
Like
Somebody brought
having
up
a
that. But if it were to be Southern Rockies, it would probably be the bobcat, and then if it were like more Alberta, Canada area, you could probably see lynx in there.
yeah, yeah. Just imagine like chasing down a pack of wolves, or maybe a pack of wolves chasing you. That would be even more exciting. Like you're hearing, you
Yeah,
hear wolves like shout and scream. I don't know, like or howling maybe
yeah,
into the wilderness, and you're just walking there with only your bow, having to be prepared anytime for a wolf maybe chasing you.
yeah. One thing that somebody was talking about was mountain lions, and I kind of like that idea.
Yeah.
They were talking about either lynx or mountain lion, and I think that lynx could work a little bit better as like just a general animal, sort of like the foxes, maybe just a little bit more sparse. Um, Lynx
Hmm.
aren't super common in the woods. They're hard to come by. They're pretty elusive. I'd
Yeah.
say at
At
least
least
a
here in
little
Norway.
bit more so than fox, but not much.
Hmm. Yeah, but I know um I've seen a lot of your videos, and I know that you don't like foxes and yotes too much, but personally, I kind of like them. I actually really like them. I like hunting bows and with the new AR 223.
Yeah,
I think it's really fun for some reason. I don't know.
I kind of like foxes and coyotes and stuff, but it's definitely not my favorite, especially when they don't have other things like stuff like bush rangers kind of ticked me off because there was not a lot of new species and there was not a lot of interesting species. Like specifically, the only species on there that wasn't scored by weight was hogs, and those are. I think even isn't that what the W stands for? Isn't like sometimes they're scored by weight or they're either scored by tusk or weight, right? And that's symbolized in their score sheet is if it says T. I could be wrong, but I think that's what that is. But yeah, I kind of was hoping for bush rangers that there would be some kind of like an axis steer or something where the score wasn't just how big and or heavy it is. Um, and
Yeah.
when you have Fox being added to every reserve up until that point, I was getting a little bit annoyed um,
Yeah.
about it being the same thing. But
Yeah. Yeah. I know.
yeah, I wouldn't complain too much about. I would probably like Lynx a fair amount. The mountain lion that they were suggesting. There was one thing that I wanted to sort of mention that I think would be a really cool idea. Is it kind of ties into something that I posted about on the forums, and that was about like rare or elusive creatures, like sort of species that you don't see all the time. And this was referring. It was a post about Bigfoot, but
Hmm.
I was talking more of like species that would be like they used to exist but now are extinct or something, or are just really really rare um, in the habitat that the reserve is based on. But I think that um, the mountain lions could work out a little bit better as that sort of a concept. You know, not quite that rare as like an extinct animal, but like um, only maybe one spawns in on the reserve, or maybe it depends, but like not there'd be very few of them on the reserve when they spawn in. So it's not like they're
Yeah,
everywhere. That and there would only be that, and also they were talking about how it would be cool to have them like interact with other animals. Like you're sort of watching a herd of cow elk walking through the fields, and then all of a sudden a mountain lion pounces on one.
yeah,
That would really be pretty cool. I'm not sure if they could possibly make that happen, but that'd be another thing is they would probably have to implement that they're very rare sort of a thing, just to make sure that there isn't elk just running around, or not elk, but mountain lions everywhere just killing everything. But yeah, the so yeah, those are some of the species that I think could work out. Like I said, maybe bighorn sheep of some sort or Dall sheep. I'm not sure what exactly they would put on there, or some sort of mountain goat. Um, and then of
hmm
course you have elk, mule deer. They could add whitetails as well, but I'm kind of hoping not. And especially if they have mule deer, I have a feeling they might not add whitetails, especially since we already have a map that has both whitetails and mule deer. So I kind of hope that that doesn't happen. Um,
yeah,
Plus, I kind of like the idea of a North American map. I don't think we have a North American map that does not have whitetails yet, other than White Rhine. Um,
yeah. That's true.
yeah. But yeah, I think overall, I'm really excited for this reserve. If you have anything else that you might want to add, um,
Yeah, I'm completely with you on this one. I'm really excited. And as you said earlier, I was kind of not hoping Africa, but it would be cool, but maybe not yet, as you were saying. I don't think it would fit into the Hunter really well. I know we have bush rangers, and that's a really exotic map, but I think Africa would be too much at this point. Uh, yeah, but I'm really excited for this new reserve, and I hope they get it done as soon as possible.
yeah. And I think to close up here, I think we can maybe do a little bit of. It seems like this has sort of become a tradition for the hunter, is to sort of try and guess where we think that the reserve is going to be. And um, I think I can. You should be able to see if I can draw it. Um,
Yeah,
I think that it'll be somewhere around this area here. Um, I'll try to get it like, yeah, something like that maybe. Um,
yeah, I was thinking that place too. Um, or maybe, yeah, I think that's a really good guess actually. Maybe they will have it like all the way down here, but as far as I have seen, I think the right part or the right island is for like European maps and stuff, and the left one is for American and North American.
mhm.
So I think where you placed it there is a really good guess, or like somewhere in between where I draw.
Yeah, somewhere around there. I think that it would be kind of cool, like toward the upper part of there. I sort of wrote that off because it sort of seems like it would be a bit too like squeezed in there. But
hmm
one thing that I think that would be actually kind of cool is if they actually had the reserves border up against each other, like Settlers and Loggers Point.
Yeah, yeah, we haven't seen that in like since yeah, yeah, as you were saying, Loggers Point and Settlers Creek.
Yeah, probably the closest thing that we've gotten since then is would be probably Settlers and Rougarou is pretty close, but you can't. I don't think you can even really see settlers quite from Rougarou Bayou. Um, but yeah, like I think that would be kind of cool. It would be kind of weird, especially with how different the environments are going to be. You'd have
Yeah.
the uh, summer area down in Red Feather, fall in the middle, and then uh, Arctic White Rime. But I think that
Yeah.
would be kind of cool. Also, is like to see the three different seasons next to each other.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's going to have to wrap it up. It's been Well, it is a bit longer than I normally like it, but it seems like that's slowly turning into like the norm for these videos.
Yeah.
Which, as long as people stay interested in them, I think that's okay. But yeah. One thing that I'm debating on doing is maybe turning these into, well, exporting the audio files and put them into uploading them into SoundCloud for as like a podcast sort of a thing, since they're already mostly just sort of us talking. It's not really gameplay oriented. So
Yeah.
I think that that might if people are interested, it might be a little bit nicer to just sort of listen to the episode than having to sit there and like watch it. Um, so it might make it
Yeah.
a little bit more accessible. But if people are interested, you can leave it in the comments, and I might get around to it if there's interest in that. But other than that, make sure to check out Steinper's channel. I'll have it linked in the description.
That would be
And
awesome. Ben, I just want to say thank you for having me on the show. It's a great honor of me. I think I love this series, and it's an honor to be able to be in an episode myself. And I hope my English is not too bad. I hope you can at least figure out some of my words, but I'm not from the USA, so my English is a little bit rusty.
yeah, I don't think it'll be too bad. But yeah, you seem to do pretty good. Aside for like maybe a little bit of the lag issues.
Yeah,
But I'll try to edit out if it gets too bad. I'll. But yeah.
yeah.
Anyways, guys, this is the Gamer Outdoorsman. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this, and stay tuned for the next episode. See ya.